past couple of years in particular, Washington has taken its eye off the ball. An endless parade of distractions and political posturing and phony scandals.
It was a commitment with your tax dollars that ended up with the worst kind of return. $535 million for a California solar energy startup, Solyndra, by the Obama administration. New emails show the California company got its $535 million loan despite deep misgivings inside the government, warning accurately Solyndra runs out of cash in September 2011.
The biggest investor in Solyndra is Oklahoma billionaire George Kaiser, a major fundraiser for the Obama presidential campaign.
Which is why it's so important we invest in Solyndra.
Behind the scenes, senior White House staff were telling the budget office if there is any way to accelerate, would give a lot of peace of mind, flexibility on that front. We would prefer to have sufficient time to do our due diligence reviews and have the approval set the date for the announcement rather than the other way around.
The loan was approved, and in May 2010, the president visited Solyndra's factory, still under construction.
Solyndra expects to hire 1,000 workers to manufacture solar panels and sell them across America and around the world.
The company and the White House kept it secret, telling Congress and the workers everything was going great until the day it shut its doors. The company filed for bankruptcy on September 6, 2011. And now questions about who knew what and when they knew it have put the White House under fire.
These are just Washington fights. They're fabricated issues, they're phony scandals that are generated.
It appears that Attorney General Eric Holder knew a lot more about it than he recently told Congress.
I'm not sure of the exact date, but I probably heard about Fast and Furious for the first time over the last few weeks.
Yet internal Justice Department documents show that at least 10 months before that hearing, Holder began receiving frequent memos discussing Fast and Furious.
These emails and memos specifically mention Fast and Furious.
They mention Fast and Furious, but do they mention gun walking and Fast
Yes,
and Furious?
they do.
No,
That's my point.
I'd like to see those. I would like to see.
We got them from you. So, we got them from Main Justice.
Let's do this. I've promised to give you all some information. I would really like to see a memo that says gun walking and Fast and Furious. I'd like to see that.
And a contempt report is ordered.
The contempt vote against Holder went forward despite a last-minute attempt by the White House to prevent it by invoking executive privilege to shield the Justice Department documents at the heart of this dispute. Attorney General Holder has said it was an honest mistake. Democrats called ICE's move today an election year witch hunt. Sensitive information, Holder said he would not give up unless the committee commits to an end of the investigation.
A full House vote on criminal contempt charges has been scheduled.
You don't want to go there, okay?
And if it passes, the matter would then be handed over to the local U.S. attorney. He's unlikely to move to prosecute his own boss, Eric Holder, so that's likely about as far as this will go.
There are almost 100 shovel-ready transportation projects already approved in Colorado, which are beginning to create jobs.
Shovels are breaking ground and cranes dot the sky.
Shovels will soon be moving earth.
Are shovel-ready. Shovel-ready projects. Shovel-ready projects. We are seeing shovels hit the ground.
Shovel-ready was not as shovel-ready as we expected.
With this endless parade of distractions and political posturing and phony scandals.
The phony scandals, pretend scandals, some phony scandals, fake scandals.
And I'm here to say this needs to stop.
The murder of 4 Americans, including the U.S. ambassador, in Benghazi, Libya on Tuesday, and the wave of anti-American protests and violence now sweeping the globe. For more on what happened and why, let's bring in the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Dr. Susan Rice.
There was a hateful video. Spontaneous protest, spontaneous, not a premeditated, began outside of our consulate in Benghazi in reaction to this very offensive video. It had nothing to do with the United States government or U.S. policy. It's approximately a reaction to this video.
This has been a difficult week for our country. We've seen the heavy assault on our post in Benghazi that took the lives of those brave men. We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video.
It is in response not to United States policy, not to, obviously, the administration, not to the American people. It is in response to a video.
It was a crude and disgusting video. Sparked outrage throughout the Muslim world.
People have accused Ambassador Rice and the administration of, misleading Americans. Nothing could be further from the truth. The reason I said make it open, tell the world, is because I believe in transparency. I believe in taking responsibility. The fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make? The IC has a process, I understand, going with the other committees to explain how these talking points came out. But
you add a line about the administration warning of September 10th of social media reports calling for demonstrations. True?
I believe so.
Did you also change attacks to demonstrations in the talking points?
Maybe. I don't really remember.
You don't remember?
Dude, this was like 2 years ago. We're still talking about the most mundane process.
But I would suggest, when we're talking about trust, we need to look no further than the person that Mitt Romney. He's refused to release his tax returns, as we know. The word's out that he hasn't paid any taxes for 10 years. Let him prove that he has paid taxes, because he hasn't.
So no regrets about Mitt Romney, about the Koch brothers, because some people have even called it McCarthyite.
Well, they call it whatever they want. Romney didn't win, did he?
2 months ago, when you were asked what's the biggest geopolitical threat facing America, you said Russia. Not Al-Qaeda, you said Russia. In the 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back. The Cold War's been over for 20 years.
The U.S. has just said that it is, quote, gravely disturbed about reports of Russian troops entering a part of Ukraine called Crimea.
And indeed, the United States will stand with the international community in affirming that there will be costs for any military intervention in Ukraine.
Russian flags are flying over bases in the region.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Nikki Golden from Clockwork Broadcasting, live from the White House in Washington, D.C. Tonight we are going to enjoy...
We've continued to be deeply concerned by events in Ukraine. Russia's decision to send troops into Crimea has rightly drawn global condemnation. We are imposing sanctions on specific individuals. There will be further consequences, and we will ramp up further sanctions. A red line for us is we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around. In no event are we considering any kind of military action.
I have decided that the United States should take military action.
That's a red line for us. Crosses another line, and that there would be enormous consequences.
Obama drew that line, and Obama can draw a line for himself and for his country, not for other countries. What about the red lines? We don't see red lines. It's political red lines.
We have strong relations with China. They are a critical country, not just to the region, but to the world.
Today we are announcing an indictment against 5 officers of the Chinese People's Liberation Army for serious cybersecurity breaches against 6 American victim companies.
Unacceptable. That's how German Chancellor Angela Merkel described the alleged bugging of her mobile phone by the U.S. We need to have trust in our allies and partners, and this trust must now be established once again.
Keep this promise. If you are happy,
You like your doctor, you can keep your choice.
Let me
of
repeat
doctor.
this.
Keep your choice of doctor.
Period. If you look at the package that we've presented, and there's some stray cats and dogs that got in there that we were eliminating. We were in the process of eliminating. For example, we said from the start that it was going to be important for us to be consistent in saying to people, if you want to keep the health insurance you got, you can keep it. That you're not going to have anybody getting in between you and your doctor in your decision making. And I think that some of the provisions that got snuck in might have violated that pledge. And so we're in the process of scrubbing this and making sure that it's tight.
But despite what some folks may say, we stuck to the promise. If you like your health care plan, you could pretty much keep it.
Your employer, it's estimated, would see premiums fall by as much as 3,000%, which means they could give you a raise.
By the way, the health care bill is a jobs bill. It will create 4 million new jobs, several 100,000 immediately upon enactment.
That bill was dead on several occasions. It was revived in my office. We did a lot of work. And was the bill perfect? Not even close.
What does success look like?
Well, I think success looks like at least 7 million people having signed up by the end of March 2014.
More than 1 million people visited healthcare.gov before 7 in the morning.
So far, the national website, healthcare.gov, has been visited nearly 20 million times. We now have 4 million Americans who have signed up for quality private health insurance through the marketplace exchanges. 4 million people have already signed up because of you.
That's 1 million to 2 million short of the 7 million mark that the administration set.
First of all, 7 million was not the administration. I'm not quite sure where they even got their number.
We're in the process of scrubbing this and making sure that it's tight.
Was this a typo, saying that only if you had a state exchange could you get a subsidy and therefore be required to participate? Or was it some significant policy decision not to include states that didn't have exchanges?
Chris, it is unambiguous this is a typo. Literally every single person involved in the crafting this law has said that it's a typo, that they had no intention of excluding the federal states, and why would they? What's important to remember politically about this is if you're a state and you don't set up an exchange, that means your citizens don't get their tax credits. I just don't know why someone can't run for the governor of Florida and say, look, I hate gays, I love guns, but I'm not turning down $2 billion a year from the federal government. It's just a typo. American voters are too stupid to understand the difference. It's first of all not entirely clear if you look at the language. I'm biased here. It's like the one bit of the bill I actually wrote. Okay? What actually it means. One way to read it is that states with federal exchanges can't give subsidies. That is really the ultimate threat is will people understand that, gee, if your governor doesn't set up an exchange, you're losing hundreds of millions of dollars of tax credits to be delivered to your citizens. Another way to read it is that they can't hope that that's a blatant enough political reality that states will get their act together and realize there are billions of dollars at stake here in setting up these exchanges and that they'll do it. But, once again, the politics can get ugly around this. I think the pressures politically led to an incomplete law with some typos.
You have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
The fact that some advisor who never worked on our staff.
I don't know who he is.
And let me, full disclaimer, I'm going to describe objectively, but I helped write it.
He didn't help write our bill.
So I'll be objective. I'll try to be objective, but just full disclaimer, I was involved in writing the legislation.
New emails show that MIT economist Jonathan Gruber was in regular contact with high-level Obama administration staffers about the health care laws.
But that's not what the White House said. It appears that some would say, not I, but some would say the White House lied. White House lie about that?
I think they were not fully forthcoming. I would say they were not fully or they may have had their recollections impaired.
The White House sought distance from Gruber after his comments that the administration used a lack of transparency and the, quote, stupidity of the American voter to pass health care reform.
You like that,
The White
Gruber was Uber.
This is the most transparent administration in history.
American voters are too stupid to understand the difference.
I take the Constitution very seriously. The notion that I can just suspend deportations through executive order, that's just not the case. Some people want me to bypass Congress and change the laws on my own. If, in fact, I could solve all these problems without passing laws in Congress, then I would do so. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be announcing here from the White House some steps that I can take to start fixing our broken immigration system. For me to simply, through executive order, ignore those congressional mandates would not conform with my appropriate role as president. It continues to be my belief that if I can't see congressional action that I need to do at least what I can in order to make the system work better. I swore an oath to uphold laws on the books. Laws on the books. The laws on the books.
President Obama has pledged to issue new executive orders on immigration. Obama is reportedly granting legal status to more than 11 million undocumented immigrants.
I'm going to continue to reach out to House Republicans in the hope that they deliver a more permanent solution with a comprehensive bill. Maybe it will be after the midterms, when they're less worried about politics.
The president is putting off issuing immigration reform orders until after the November midterm elections because immigration is a controversial political issue.
And I indicated to Speaker Boehner several months ago that if, in fact, Congress failed to act, I would use all the lawful authority that I possess to try to make the system work better. They failed to do so. This notion that somehow I can just change the laws unilaterally is just not true.
The only thing I can't do is stand by and do nothing while waiting for them to get their act together. That's not how our system works.
I'm going to do what I can do through executive action.
There are enough laws on the books by Congress that are very clear in terms of how we have to enforce our immigration system.
And I would advise that if, in fact, they want to take a different approach, rather than devote a lot of time trying to constrain my lawful actions, that they spend some time passing a bill.
I am not a dictator. I'm the president. This morning, I called Bob and Janie Bergdahl and told them that after nearly 5 years in captivity, their son Bo is coming home. As part of this effort, the United States is transferring 5 detainees from the prison in Guantanamo Bay to Qatar. The Qatari government has given us assurances that it will put in place measures to protect our national security.
President Obama says he traded for Sergeant Bo Bergdahl because America's sacred duty to leave no soldier behind is unconditional, even if he walked away from his unit in Afghanistan before his capture.
Whatever those circumstances may turn out to be, we still get an American soldier back if he's held in captivity. Period. Full stop. We don't condition that.
Sergeant Bergdahl wasn't simply a hostage. He was an American prisoner of war, captured on the battlefield. He served the United States with honor and distinction. This is a joyous day.
A good day.
And always let your conscience be your guide.
I feel like he deserted us.
He deserted not only the Army, but he also left myself and my platoon and my company to clean up his mess.
I do believe that he needs to be questioned and basically tried if necessary.
Does the State Department consider Sergeant Bergdahl to be a deserter?
The State Department, no, Lucas. Look, what we've said is we are going to learn the facts about what happened here.
According to those around him, his platoon mates, his squad mates, company mates, they said he walked off.
Some of them, there are conflicting reports out there about this.
The guys on national television last night, his squad mates, platoon mates were not correct.
I'm saying we don't know the fact pattern yet here. We don't. Nobody knows exactly what happened that night.
Well, I think that his squad mates have the best indication.
I don't think that that's the case.
I have to tell you the same thing that I've been saying for the last several days. We saw an opportunity and we took it. And I make no apologies for it. It was a unanimous decision among my principals in my government. Here's one thing I've learned as Commander-in-Chief. You've got to be clear, both to our allies and our enemies, about where you stand and what you mean.
But in January, President Obama told the New Yorker magazine's David Remnick that ISIS was like a JV basketball team. He said, quote, the analogy we use around here sometimes, and I think is accurate, is if a JV team puts on Lakers uniforms, that doesn't make them Kobe Bryant.
For the last several years, we have consistently taken the fight to terrorists who threaten our country. We took out Osama bin Laden and much of al-Qaeda's leadership in Afghanistan and Pakistan. If you had to choose any moment to be born in human history, you choose this time. The world is less violent than it has ever been.
There has been a spate of recent attacks. The gunman in Canada, the man with an axe in New York, the attack on a cafe in Sydney.
Sadly, today we learned he was apparently beheaded.
Another American has been beheaded.
As our strategy develops,
We will continue to consult with Congress, but I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We don't have a strategy yet.
ISIS may have slaughtered another hostage. This image was released, showing one of the hostages holding a picture of the other decapitated. It appears tonight that ISIS may have slaughtered another hostage. This time the victim would be
ISIS
Japanese.
Executed a Jordanian Air Force pilot by burning him alive.
The last American hostage held by ISIS, a young woman, Kayla Mueller, 26 years old, is dead.
We don't yet have a complete strategy. We've had an endless parade of distractions and political posturing and phony scandals that... Well, let me take the IRS situation first. I first learned about it from the same news reports that I think most people learned about this.
I have not done anything wrong. I have not broken any laws. I have not violated any IRS rules or regulations, and I have not provided false information to this or any other congressional committee. Because I'm asserting my right not to testify, I know that some people will assume that I've done something wrong. One of the basic functions of the Fifth Amendment is to protect innocent individuals, and that is the protection I'm invoking today. Thank you.
We have enough evidence of her wrongdoing that we want to review every email that she has sent or received. That's reasonable to do when you have someone who takes the Fifth.
If, in fact, IRS personnel engaged in the kind of practices that have been reported on and were intentionally targeting conservative groups, then that's outrageous.
You did receive this subpoena, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any doubt as to what that means?
What any of them mean, as noted, some of them mean that you're going to take months or years to get the information, and it's going to be voluminous.
Why?
There's no doubt about it.
Commissioner, what email system do you use there at the IRS?
I have Microsoft Office.
So how long would it take to find all the emails that included her email address? Let's learn.
It would take a while. We'd have
like how long?
Well, there are millions of emails.
Minutes?
A million minutes. I don't know, but I don't think it's minutes.
The IRS has turned over some, but on Friday, in a letter to Congress, the IRS said it had determined that Ms. Lerner's computer crashed in 2011 and that any of Ms. Lerner's email that was only stored on that computer's hard drive would have been lost.
Unfortunately, after receiving assistance from several highly skilled technicians, including HP experts, he still cannot recover the data.
Do you believe in the Easter Bunny? Do you believe in Santa Claus? Do you believe that Lois Lerner's emails just suddenly went poof?
The idea that we can recover the last 17 or 18 seconds from Challenger exploding above our atmosphere, falling to the sea, and being left under the sea for a year, that we could recover the voice from that, makes people wonder why not one piece of data could be recovered.
After it was determined that it was dysfunctional and that with experts no emails could be retrieved, was recycled and destroyed in the normal process. This was...
The IG is conducting its investigation, and I am not going to comment on their specific findings prematurely.
Some people are saying is that the IRS was used at a local level in Cincinnati, maybe other places, to
Absolutely
go out.
wrong.
But how do you
Absolutely
know that? Because we still don't know what happened.
Bill, we do. That's not what happened. These kinds of things keep on surfacing, in part because you and your TV station will promote them.
We're talking about the way they singled out conservative groups, and ABC's chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl is tracking the fast-moving developments tonight.
A just-released investigative report by the IRS's own watchdog says that more than half of the conservative groups targeted were asked for irrelevant and unnecessary information, all part of an effort to single out Tea Party organizations that were applying for tax-exempt status for extra scrutiny.
No corruption.
No.
None.
No, there were some boneheaded decisions out of a
but no
local
mass
office.
corruption.
Not even mass corruption, not even a smidgen of corruption.
But ABC News has obtained documents showing other IRS offices around the country were involved, including 2 in California and the headquarters in Washington, D.C.
This is something that I think people are properly concerned about, and people have to be held accountable, and it's got to be fixed. So we'll wait and see.
Only until 2 weeks ago did we find out that probably the tapes that we are actually looking for we were never told about.
You're going to take months or years to get the information.
How long did it actually take you to find them? Literally about 2 weeks.
No emails could be retrieved.
The 744 tapes that we initially obtained on July 1st were in the backup system of the IRS, right where you would expect them to be.
With regard to the production of the evidence, the production of Lois Lerner emails, I have seen no evidence of
Anybody
wrongdoing.
ever asked them for the tapes? No.
I have a long career. That's the first time anybody has said that they do not believe me. I don't believe you. That's fine.
There is potential criminal activity.
I don't think an apology is owed.
There have been questions about my emails. When I got to work as Secretary of State, I opted for convenience to use my personal email account. Going through the emails, there were over 60,000 in total. About half were personal. I am very confident of the process that we conducted. I have absolute confidence that everything that could be in any way connected to work is now in the possession of the State Department. I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified materials. The server contains personal communications from my husband and me.
Only time I got on the internet, I did 2 emails. Otherwise, I found people said embarrassing things on emails. I didn't want to be one of them.
And the server will remain private. But I am all about new beginnings. A new email account. You may have seen that I recently launched a Snapchat account. I love it. I love it. Those messages disappear all by themselves.
FBI believes that you tried to wipe the entire server. Did you try to wipe the entire, so that there'd be no email, no personal?
It's safe. I'm not, I have no idea. That's why we turned it over.
You were in charge of it. You were the official in charge. Did you wipe the server?
What, like with a cloth or something?
For the first time in nearly a decade, we have halted the progress of the Iranian nuclear program, and key parts of the program will be rolled back. Iran has committed to halting certain levels of enrichment. Iran cannot use its next-generation centrifuges. Iran will halt work at its plutonium reactor. New inspections will provide extensive access to verify whether Iran is keeping its commitments. And because of this agreement, Iran cannot use negotiations as cover to advance its program.
Iran and 6 world powers have failed to meet a July 20 deadline.
The nuclear deal with Iran is unlikely this morning, with just hours to go until the deadline.
The Iranians rejected what the U.S. considered a generous offer.
We're less than 24 hours now from a major deadline for negotiators. There is word of a possible last-minute stumbling block.
Our program is exclusively peaceful, has always been and will always remain exclusively peaceful.
We know that they don't need to have a underground fortified facility like Fordo in order to have a peaceful nuclear program.
We will have, as you will hear, centrifuges installed in Fordo, and we will continue the Fordo facility.
They certainly don't need a heavy water reactor.
Our heavy water reactor will be modernized.
They don't need some of the advanced centrifuges.
None of those measures include closing any of our facilities. The proud people of Iran would never accept that. We will continue research and development. We will continue enriching.
آمریکا به مذاکرات هسته‌ای بسیار احتیاج دارد. اینو همه بدونن.
We have a lot of hard work to do. There's some very tough issues.
I agree. Maybe not on the issues, but
we have no illusions about the Iranian government, the Revolutionary Guard, and the Quds Force. Iran supports terrorist organizations like Hezbollah. It supports proxy groups that threaten our interests, including proxy groups who killed our troops in Iraq. But Iran has been engaged in these activities for decades. They engaged in them before sanctions and while sanctions were in place. The truth is that Iran has always found a way to fund these efforts. The ruling regime is dangerous and it is repressive. We will have a lot of differences with the Iranian regime. Just because Iranian hardliners chant death to America does not mean that that's what all Iranians believe. It's those hardliners chanting death to America who've been most opposed to the deal. They're making common cause with the Republican caucus.
جنوب تا شمال و از شرق تا غرب یک فریاد است و اون مرگ بر امریکا.
I've had to make a lot of tough calls as president. But whether or not this deal is good for American security is not one of those calls. It's not even close. I first learned about it from the same news reports that I think most people learned about this.
I heard on the news about this story that Fast and Furious.
Everyone knows, the president did not know about this tactic until he heard about it on through the media.
We found out about, along with all of you.
He found out about the news reports yesterday on the road.
I certainly did not know anything.
I can guarantee you that I've been more deeply involved in our intelligence than just about any president.
So there's a lot that I'd like to do to keep America moving, but under our Constitution, I cannot run again. I can't run again. I actually think I'm a pretty good president. I think if I ran, I could win. But I can't.